Welcome to Innsbruck, now in Tirol. I'm here at the start of the press conference for NATO membership of Austria for the People's Petition. I'm in Tirol because that's very important territory, and the federal state of Austria that was divided 105 years ago by the treaties of post-World War I, and it was a tragedy for the people in South Tirol, and it's now time for unity of Tirol again in NATO. We have achieved a lot with Austrian EU accession. NATO member Italy has then brought to reason as well with American tutelage, and that was very important already in the 70s and 80s. But what is of course now happening in the EU, it was very good and beneficial. We have the same currency now between Tirol and South Tirol, and now we will have also the same defense alliance because Austria should join NATO. This is actually what I recommend to all the minority conflict regions of Eastern Europe, Central Europe. We have so many, from north of Kosovo to north of Cyprus to Transnistria. We have many complicated regions. It's all the autonomy status for South Tirol. It's the example, but also then joined NATO, EU, and of course the Euro, and then all the edges will be smoothed out by being in the same currency, in the same defense alliance, and in the same European political union. And that's very important, in the same EU. And so this is something we have not achieved in Austria, and so Tirol is still divided because Austria is not in the same defense alliance like Italy, and by the way Germany as well, and it's very important. So I call now for the Italian Prime Minister, Mrs. Meloni, please support Austria's NATO accession. That's very important. And let's unite Tirol in NATO. And that's very important. So let's be in the same defense alliance. Of course, there will be always division. It will be always Italy and Austria, but they will be in the same European Union, in the same defense alliance, NATO, in the same Euro. So the edges and of the past, the injustice and unfairness of the past will be smoothed out. And that's very important. The separation, the division of Tirol must be overcome inside NATO in the same defense alliance. And so it's important that Tirol, this federal state here, takes the leadership in the NATO debate of Austria and is really ending this idea of a neutral bloc between Switzerland and Austria, dividing Italy and Germany. And that is in history, of course, the reason for Austrian neutrality. It was always Stalin's idea, and before to some extent Clemenceau's idea, to divide Germany, Italy, to have no common border, to separate the land corridor, the air corridor, and that is of course very wrong, and that has to be overcome. I remember I was myself in 2003 at the American-sponsored reception in Cancun, and it was very deeply problematic because the parliamentarians there were very angry on us in Austria that we didn't allow to have the air transit at that time. Now in the Ukraine war, in the Russian war against Ukraine, of course Austria is of course allowing overflight, and it's of course also the transit of Slovenian tanks through Austria. It's all possible whenever some Russian paid neutralists from the FPÖ opposing this, but Austria, of course, as a EU country, has now the demand for solidarity and is opening our airspace and our land corridors, but not completely. Of course, in NATO that would be much better. So no neutral bloc anymore in between Germany and Italy, and I think it's very in the interest of Italy and Germany to have Austria in NATO, and so I call on, especially here, the Italian Prime Minister to support that. And then it is also good to remind that America has liberated Tirol. In Vienna, some people have forgotten that, but it is Western Austria, also Upper Austria, was liberated by the Americans. That's the way to do it, and we should be grateful and thankful, and it was not the Soviet Union. And coming also to internal politics of Austria, the question of these Viennese gas deals with OMV. And they are very much harming all European taxpayers, all Austrian taxpayers, and they have, some few who made these deals in Vienna got rich, but the rest has really to pay now, and that's very deeply problematic. And this Viennese neutralism, herzlich willkommen, one moment, has to be rejected, and also the Brenner should be no border anymore inside NATO, and never anymore the Brenner Pass should be a border dividing NATO and the EU, and that's deeply problematic, and I call for Austria to join NATO and Tirol to take the lead in this debate. Thanks a lot, and the next video will be then in German language. Thanks a lot for watching, and please, Italy, support Austria's NATO accession. Thanks a lot. Bye from Innsbruck.